And welcome in, welcome in. We're back at it. We're back in the studio, in the West Coast Uncensored studio. Um, in the main library today, we are, as you can see, my library behind me. We are in with a fifth and last of the mirrored holographic series, as we are in the fifth and very last episode of this series. We started with episode one on science and what science is saying about the mirrored holographic reality, and how science even identifies even Hinduism and the Vedic as actually having these aspects, and then the aspects though used and tailored in language that is more esoteric than modern day science. That would be the only difference, because I had a couple of people saying, well, it doesn't say exact. No, it doesn't. They're talking modern science when they're using esoteric, which you're not privy to if you don't know what the difference, if you don't even know esoteric is, and you're still out in places in exoteric knowledge, getting getting raw Simulac for 40 years. That's ruins. Notice the word Simulac. It's a simulation lax. It's not real milk. Ooh, ooh. And they've been giving that to babies. Ooh, ooh. It's called Simulac because it's a simulation that lacks organic. Breaking down occultic meanings that are just in the stuff you buy. It's there, but if you're an exoteric, you're not going to catch the truths hidden in the flavor, in the color of the esoteric hidden knowledge writing, which is leads us to today's fifth and last episode, unless I go over explanation of the previous in a wrapped up aspect, which I could, which I may. The wrapped up, aspect of my thoughts of the fivefold series we did here. Notice how I brought out the fivefold series. And I may go in that in a kind of off the cuff thing, and do an overall aspect of it. I may definitely like the revisiting or the end of something. But anyways, this is the fifth and last episode of it, as far as any more different things I will mention. It's in philosophy, other philosophies. It is kind of found that out this week. It's in different philosophical teachings and different aspects of that, or the holographic reality, and some even books in that are connected when you start reading some of these ancient books that are fairy tales in philosophy books really had mentioned this too. But we went into the prime kind of religion. We went through Hinduism, like I said. We went through modern day science first. We went into Hinduism second. We went into, I believe, the I Chi third. Last episode 4 was Buddhism, and we're finishing today. If you didn't know, but now you're going to find out, Christianity had the link to it too. The Kabbalah has a link. As I found out, the Kabbalah, which is Judaism's esoteric book aspects, Kabbalah. Not, every religion, every past has an esoteric to it. In the exoteric, they find plausible for you to eat, take, sup with, but who makes that decision? That's the question. Who makes the decision that you only get exoteric knowledge? Just think about that. Who made that decision? Or who made that decision? Who makes and continues to make that decision not to giving you the real habanero sauce, if I may? Keep giving you fake chilies that have no heat and calling it habanero, and you're like, you well-versed habanero tasting chili eaters are like, this don't bring no fire. This ain't really habanero. That's what I'm talking about. That would be kind of the revelation or an allegorical meaning to what I'm saying. So when we get into this aspect of this, we're going to go in. So Christianity, of course, it's a little bit in the canonized version. It is a little bit, but mostly it goes deeper into Gnosticism. And we're going to go there today. So I'm going to share a page. We're going to go on the Gnostic reading. But first, before we read what it says about Gnosticism connection, there's a few scripture in the book of Jude, I believe, and I could be wrong. I think it's the book of Jude. It talks about he will send back his loved ones or little ones, a myriad of himself, a myriad of saviors with a plural. This is a quote on the book of Jude, which really I believe is a quote from the book of Enoch, and I could be wrong on that. That quote in Jude is really a quote from Enoch, the book of Enoch, because the canonized version has a bunch of esoteric knowledge in it, but when you're not aware of it, you just pass it by because you've been trained to be an exotericism. You've been programmed, is what I'm saying. We all were programmed if we came out of religion. You were programmed like how, you know, when they used to do these car tests to see how people would be affected in car crashes, they used to call them crash dummies. We've been the program crash dummies in religious and politics, exoteric stuff. Just facts. We disclose here at West Coast Uncensored. We don't censor, we uncensor the censor. And that's even a little thing. I shared a picture of a professional wrestler on TikTok, and they queued me up for that and blocked it. And I'm like, what? Instagram didn't, Facebook didn't, YouTube didn't, but you do? Really? You do? Really? Boy, like they really don't like your rights, because you have rights to express your feelings. Supposed to be, but we've seen it from 2020 on, Jive Time. But I'm not deep diving in Jive Time. That will be in the upcoming episodes, because we're going to get a little steamier in the upset. I want to go back into what is happening in the world. And we're going to have some Whitney Webb telling us what's really going on. Little AI diving. We're going to do what's really going on that we're not told, because we only see the actors, the main puppets. That's the names we know. But what about the connection of them who are connected to big things but don't have the name, that if you've seen them on TV and they walked by, say a Musk, you wouldn't know who that guy is. We're going to find out who them guys are connected to AI, BlackRock, Vanguard, Mindset, what they got in store for you all. If this is part of why we need to know this. I don't always do this, but when I do, guess where we do it good at here. So we're going to have some Whitney Webb, may even dive in some things that I won't even mention yet. But anyways, we're going one way. We're sharing the last of this series today. Now let's go even. We got the AI mode and we got the all mode. We'll start with this. It says there isn't a direct, universally accepted connection between Gnosticism and modern scientific concept of the holographic mirror reality. What they're really telling you is we don't have a language that's esoteric, because the Gnosticism, it'd be resting esoteric. It doesn't bow down to the modern day. It's not part of the modern day programming language that we see at the university, a programming center near you. So it tries to say, well, it's not really no. Let's break this down for what it really means. We're dealing with a language, of course, that is equivocal, which will tell you something, then turn around and tell you it's not, which when we showed you what equivocal languages mean. And if you don't know, go to that video I made about equivocal languages, what they're used for and what they're really are. English is one of them. Between Gnosticism, the concept of the holographic mirror reality, however, and this is what it was. This is exactly what this, when I say unequivocally, this is what this means. It will tell you there's no direct connection between them and directly, but however, which is saying, but there is, but they gave you the jive time in between by the first part to this part, which really explains what the equivocal, you have to just earn the unequivocal language, and it's hijinks. It tells you no, but then tells you yes, and then you're caught in between two worlds. But when you decode, you Slaughterhouse 7, that language, and then you use it for your perception. Just tell the truth. Go back to, I did do one on the unequivocal language of what the English language is really created for. I do have a video on that. But however, some drawn parallels, interpretive connections due to similarities in both address the nature of reality, perceived illusionary nature of the physical world. And remember, this was talked about in the same kind of language that it's saying is would definitely be. Let me get my air over here a little bit better. It seems to be a little humid today. Okay. Woo, we're on a roll today. He said, D, you're already starting in. I am. I'm starting in. Seeing revelation. That's why awareness is so important. You can use your awareness and what you know by maneuvering this reality. I maneuvered the writing of this in actually with the unequivocal language. But here's the aspect of now why it is like it. Remember, this was written by them in esoteric form. In some forms, Gnosticism suggests the material world is a flawed or deceptive creation of the demiurge, a lesser deity. The material world is seen as a shadow imitation of a higher, truer spiritual reality, the pleroma. The idea of the holographic simulated reality suggests that it's perceived as real might be a perception or complex representation of an underlying reality. And if you remember when we got into some of the other ones, when we got into the science part, it was saying the same thing, that there was a greater reality. This was the scientific part, agreeing with this in Hinduism, because if you really look at the base of Hinduism, Gnosticism, the I Ching, and this, it's telling you there's a reality within a reality through perceptions of lights that's really an illusionary Maya. If I go back to Hinduism, reality, it's an illusion, right? That really energy is everything, and the immediate, like that table, which appears to be solid, that you can even hear the thump and the thud, is really not what it is in the long run of where it is, what it comes from. It's really energies in motion within the table. Everything's energetic and light and energy. So Gnosticism's central concept is special esoteric knowledge that helps people understand the true nature of the cosmos and their place in it, leading to freedom from the material world. Remember that, freedom from. The highlights the idea of the deeper understanding is key to unlocking a higher truth. In a holographic reality, gaining a deeper understanding might involve recognizing the underlying informational structure that creates our perceived reality. And that would be very much the same thing. Gnosticism often embraces a dualistic view, seeing the spiritual realm as good, linked to light and truth, while the material realm is seen as flawed. The holographic itself is dualistic. However, discussions sometimes touch the idea of the difference between a perceived physical reality and a more fundamental information or energetic reality, meaning what I just said. Is this energy or is this solid? It's the perception that you're in that appears to be real, but they're saying right here, the energetic thing is, it's not real. This is nothing but energy. This table is energy. The thoughts or the mind create the reality of what we see by project outside of ourselves. If you remember the first episodes, we're projecting this reality through this. We project solid, we start creating the solid. That's why you're kind of the creator in motion, still unfolding itself to unfolding itself, which is a deeper thing. And I'll save that maybe if I do a recap of this. Movies like The Matrix and Gnostic themes showing humanity trapped in a simulated reality with a protagonist, Neo seeking secret knowledge to escape, Gnosis. And I'm telling you, The Matrix is definitely found some information that was taken, and a lot of what was used in The Matrix was used from Gnosticism. Yeah, it was. I had read that and kind of got into that. It's going to mention a very important person here that you should read, Philip K. Dick. So he said science fiction writers like Philip K. Dick, also influenced by Gnostic ideas, exploring alternative realities and the deceptive nature of the physical universe. Philip K. Dick is very in this, and also Philip K. Dick gets into some things showing you, because we know about the Gnostic writers, and I had a couple ask me, well, what did they do? What else did they teach? And he wrote some books of it. They wasn't just about this is the books because they're like gospels, and this is how we work. But there's some other things that they had put out showing you how they went into meditation, some of the practices they did, some of the things that they did that were connected to getting into the in between parallel universes or different dimensions or densities, if you would call them that, which would be densities is definitely a very more esoteric or esoterica name for realities instead of parallel is very much a science aspect of it. Parallel universe. Dimensions are more, dimensions and densities are the same. Esoterica uses the word densities, and even alchemy would use the density aspect of dimensions. In essence, let's keep reading. In essence, with Gnosticism is a religious and philosophical tradition put together, and the holographic principle is a concept that the theoretical physics. Some see parallels of their sheer question apparent reality and the emphasis of a deeper hidden truth beyond immediate perception. Let's see what the AI has to even dig a little deeper, as it says, the AI. Modern thoughts has drawn intriguing connection between Gnosticism and the concept of holographic or simulated reality. Reality is an illusion one. Both Gnosticism and holographic universe theory suggests the material world might not be entirely real. This goes back, this book is 2,000 years old. This is before Rome 325 AD. Early Christianity was very much a Gnostic Christianity, was just as much part of it as what we see now is not what was part of first. What we see as Christianity now was not first and second generation, not at all. That was after the influx of Rome, and let's be honest, it was Rome who took it over. The Roman Empire took it over, if I can even be more factual. And they took it over and made it theirs, and it really became a political war machine because they went conquering with it. That's just facts. Anything less, you're lying to yourself because you ain't gonna lie to me. I already know, and I accept the truth. I didn't let my former religious beliefs bind me. I walked out of the religious beliefs out of that to expand myself to more truth, because that's how I have rolled for 30 years, and I believe multiple lifetimes. Gnostics believe the physical world. We already seen that. We already seen that the reality, escaping the illusion. Gnostics believe the salvation or liberation gnosis involved in acquiring esoteric knowledge to escape the material realm to return to the true, higher divine realm, pleroma. Understanding the nature and holographic reality can unblock the potential to transcend and perceive limitations. So it's agreeing with it, hand in hand. We got two aspects of the theory of this from recent science to, like I said, we can go 2,000 years, we can go 5,000 years to the I Ching. The Gnostics and the sages and them knew this stuff that science is just starting to put together again, just starting to engage in. Some holographic theories propose that consciousness is merely a product of the brain, but a fundamental field interacting with the quantum fabric of the universe. Thoughts and intentions could be shaping the holographic universe. This aligns with the Gnostic emphasis on the divine spark or inner essence within humans and the potential to connect with higher consciousness or God through gnosis. Modern applications. Discussions made around modern technology like a virtual reality, transhumanism, sometimes involve Gnostic themes of transcending the body, escaping physical limitations through technology. The digital Gnosticism raised similar questions, but reality and the human condition is an increasingly technological world. It's important to note the connection between Gnosticism is primarily has a conceptual comparison, not a direct link. That's what they say because they're going from scientific. But what I say is they're light years ahead of you because it's fact. We got proofs of linear years, if it's not linear, than what it is that they did, because these people realize the information comes from one, not just one side of the brain, from within you. That's the divine spark. A lot of the people in science are only leaning on one side. Let's just be honest. That's the difference between Freud and Jung. Jung went both sides. Freud wanted to stay analytical into outside of you. Freud took this into a very spiritual relationship connected to psych. Difference. Jung, to me, is light years ahead of him. Somebody said, well, how come they asked Freud? They said, well, Freud was asked, how does it feel to be the smartest man in the world? And you know what his aspect, he said it wasn't himself. It was Tesla. Go ask Tesla. But guess who Tesla would hang around and was more like? Jung. And they said, oh my God, you're right. And I said, yeah. There's connection between Jung and Tesla. Because Tesla knew Jung, knew what he was talking, because Tesla was a spiritual, woken up, because he was a meditator in the dark to awaken, and his ideas would be given through him, in him, from the very dark space, or the dark womb, or the pleroma, or what even we've seen here, a black hole. In the first episode, talked about the black hole. And when I seen that, the science aspect, and I read it, and I go, that is very much the story of ancient sages, mystics, and those who had knowledge, was saying exactly about what they were saying. What we call a black hole, which I wouldn't think of now, was the nothingness, the all, the dark womb, the pleroma. Very interesting, very interesting. It's crucial to distinguish between ancient religions, belief systems, and modern. Yeah, definitely. And those knowers know. And when you know, right? Yeah. When you know. And you got to look at this coming from science. They're the qualifiers. No, you're the Johnny come latelys. That's a fact. There's no science that can wiggle out of that, but your programming will. But I'm not going to down because they found this out. But I also know they're one side workers of the brain. But I also found out some of the initial ones. I learned this from, I don't have the proof myself, but Morg had brought this out. I don't know if any of you know who Morg is. Go watch his channel, very good channel. I've never shared a video from Morg, and I thought about it. I do like Morg. Interesting guy. Good stuff. But Morg made an interesting comment to me. My next video will be the recap of these 5, and I will be off the cuffing it. Because my notes are here and here. And here. You know how everybody's going around like this and saying, oh, that's of the devil and that's the eye or whatever. Somebody going like this. Don't you know that stuff's all hijinks, stolen information, and they steal it and they feel they do, and they present it to you, and what they present it as, everybody's around screaming, that's the devil, that's Satan, when you really know the symbol, the sign, and the practice, and even maybe the character or the prototype or archetype really had nothing to do with what they're saying. They just hijacked it and gave you kind of like a swastika. Swastika's ancient. But anyways, so very interesting that Gnosticism is very much in the court, and I'm not surprised when you start dealing with the language of Gnosticism with the emanations. Go look up what the emanations are, and then the illusion of Maya, and then the I Ching. When you look at in the I Ching, they were like bulbs of light connected to a string, and when it would come down, it was these strings and lights were connected. And it would give you the full fight of the reality of the universe with light, because it's all like holographic light. Because holographic light is light. It is light. Why do you think it's so heavy on? They hijack Luciferianism so hard, because when you really understand the ancient meaning of Luciferian, it's nothing to what's presented now by evil. It's none of that. It has nothing to do with that. I mean, Lucifer goes back to the Venus, the bright morning star, which which is mentioned in the Old Testament, one scripture that's not written in Hebrew. One, it's not written in Hebrew. Think about this. One, which mentions Lucifer, the light bearer, and then the book of Revelations, it calls Jesus the same thing. It calls Jesus Lucifer if you accept the truth, but you'll run with your indoctrination. But them who know. There ain't nowhere to run and hide. It will always slap you in the face. Like John Lennon said, instant karma will always slap you in the face. You can run and hide as much as you want, but it'll always find a way to pop you again, slap. It's trying to wake you up. Karma is not necessarily evil. Karma is just trying to wake you up to learn the lesson by redeeming the lesson, growth from it. But anyways, when we look at it, very interesting. So we went through all four of them. We'll definitely stop and we'll go into the next video. I thought about moving on. I think I will do next video will be the recap. One more time. The next video will be the recap. And then we're going to go into some other things about what's going on outside of us. We see everything going on from murder, death, and war, and weather attacks, mental attacks, fire, scorching and burning and flooding is everywhere. And what's going on with AI? And AI also, he didn't mention, because it didn't mention in this article, is definitely connected to, and I'm starting to think that has always been part of what we would call the demiurge or the Antichrist. But we'll get on that. We will get on that. So I'm going to recap, and it's going to be off the cuff recap. I'm not going to have any notes of the five I'm going to do. I'm going to go from the heart, from the mind, from the revelation. I'm going to let it flow. I'm going to tie in things, recap the series, which definitely has been awesome. Thanks for the watches. And in between, we did the reshaping the reality within. Boy, those things that number one is on a viral rampage through the community right now. I looked up and said, whoa, what happened here? Yeah. And 2 is picking up now too. So, but 1 and 2 is picking up. So you guys have a fantastic